When you talk about the Trojan family, you're not just talking about football. You're talking about USC and the film school.
There is nothing more important than nurturing young people's ability to express what is in their hearts and minds.
Everybody's here to do great work.
It's about doing what you love.
Getting into the USC Film School was the milestone moment in my career.
The ratio that they told me at the time was 10 or 20 to 1.
I called and they said, oh, you're in.
I didn't know if I was going to throw up or pass out or do both at the same time.
I would like to go to school here.
I didn't know anything about making movies. And after the first year, I was on the same level, if not advanced, more than the people that came in knowing all about movies.
I prefer a student who hasn't studied film.
What you get is always more than you expected. It's always more creative and more unique.
They're smart rather than stupid. That should probably go without saying, but that's not true everywhere.
I love their wide-eyed sense that they can do anything and the world will change.
Some are, you know, a little too high maintenance.
I did a good job, a very good film, and then a good B-.
I love movies, students love movies.
This is really a school that encourages risk-taking.
When students come to class with their very first film, it is one of the most exciting times for them and for us as teachers.
You know more about the person who directed an 8-minute short silent film than that person knows about themselves.
I was trying to make Flashdance, and it turned out to be anything but.
It was a murder mystery where you only saw the people's feet.
That even sounds stupid. What was I thinking?
It was sort of like a West Side Story kind of thing.
If you do all this really hard work and you get really lucky, sometimes the product you get out of it is actually magic.
Some of the student films here are so amazing that I wish I'd worked on.
I made a short film, and it was seen by some folks who gave me some money to make a bigger film, which was seen by some folks.
I think the USC Mafia is part myth and part reality.
It's like The Sopranos, but he's much bigger.
It's a mafia for the good.
I consider myself one of the founding members and card-carrying members of the SC Mafia.
It might be better presented as the USC family.
Every job I've been on, there's been a USC connection.
USC gives the industry its writers, its directors, its producers, its studio executives, you name it. We're feeding the beast.
We train young people to be really decent people on a movie set.
Working in the industry is a lot easier than going through USC Film School.
USC is the film industry with less money where you have to wait in line for equipment.
What would the movie business be today were there no USC?
It's simply the best.
If it weren't for USC, I certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now.
I like this. I think I'll keep doing it.
What else is there?
Congratulations, Trojans.
Keep up the good work.
My kind of people.
Happy 75th.
My kind of school.
Every time you go to the movie theater and you have the previews, they turn down the lights. There's a split second where there's all possibilities, where there's nothing on the screen, but there's only pure magic about to unfold. That was USC for me.
I guess that's kind of everything in a nutshell.
Los Angeles, 1929. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has just signed an agreement with Dr. Rufus von Kleinschmidt, president of the University of Southern California, creating the first ever class on motion pictures, Introduction to the Photoplay. Down to USC go the bright lights of Hollywood, Academy President Douglas Fairbanks, Wunderkind producer Irving Thalberg, director Ernst Lubitsch, and many more. But can they teach? You bet. Look out, King Vidor. Here come the Trojans. Do you love the movies but don't know how to make one? Then join students from around the globe in Southern California here at USC's Department of Cinematography. Boris Morkoven, chair of the department, teaches classes in Introduction to the Photoplay and Motion Picture Technique. USC is the first university ever to offer a bachelor's degree in cinema. But homework isn't just nights at the movies. Here's a still of student Richard Baer directing The Oval Portrait, winner of the prestigious Paul Muni Award. Classes are filling up fast, so if you want to make has struck USC. First, it was the Cine Club, then the Trojan Review, and now it's Delta Kappa Alpha, the first cinematography fraternity. The DKAs are publishing CineJournal, inviting cinema luminaries down to speak, and have taken over the ever-popular Trojan newsreel. In this office, Herb Farmer meets with his associates to plan the newsreel features. Looks like this was lit by honorary DKA Greg Toland. Keep up the good work, boys. The 1939 World's Fair. Those fortunate enough to see President Roosevelt's televised broadcast immediately grasped the importance of this new medium. So today, USC offers an experimental class in television. Those lights, that lipstick, it's the beginning of something great, and USC will not be left behind. Painting, sculpture, drawing, and architecture have moved out to make room for the new art, cinema. Art and architecture students have been relocated to the new Fine Arts Building, or in the case of graduate Henry Bumstead, Hollywood. Students and staff are working to build sound stages, projection rooms, and classrooms for the recently renamed Department of Cinema. It's no MGM Studios, but it'll do. When war was declared, students and faculty from USC's Department of Cinema marched out to serve in photography and communication units. Since the war's end, the armed forces have sent soldiers back to USC to study film on the GI Bill. Returning GIs like William Fraker and Conrad Hall can take up to 46 classes in filmmaking. Now, helmets are only worn on the football field, and the only dark trenches are in Doheny Library. For aspiring filmmakers, USC is a great place to be.
Oh, hello there. Lately, I've been asked a lot of questions about the changing face of the Department of Cinema. The 1950s have introduced a host of new and exciting challenges for our school. So we've put together this little film to try to answer your questions.
How can films educate?
Glad you asked. This decade has given rise to the use of the short film as the ultimate educational tool. One of a series of films made for the Department of Cinema, Focus Please, tackles the high-pressure world of film projection. The Slate is a guided behind-the-scenes tour of continuity, narrated by big man on campus, Jerry Litwin.
When the clapsticks are closed quickly, they make a loud, sharp sound.
Now let's hear that next question.
Is the Department of Cinema splitting?
Yes. Due to overwhelming demand, the Department of Cinema will soon have two divisions, production and critical studies. But we're all still part of the same family. Here are some highlights from an upcoming film featuring members of our critical studies program.
Choose one of each pair that comes the closest to expressing your own idea of the film.
That film was really worthwhile. I'm glad I had a chance to see it.
I didn't see much to the film. I thought it was a waste of time.
Can a USC film win an Oscar?
Yes, it is possible. The Department of Cinema recently won its first Oscar for its documentary, Face of Lincoln.
During the 4 months as president-elect, we see a marked change in Lincoln's face. He begins to grow the Lincoln beard.
How do I find employment?
Well, we all know J. Edgar Hoover likes to say there's no such thing as the mafia. But I'm sure if Senator Kefauver looked a little closer, he'd find out about another mafia, the USC mafia. I'd advise a graduate looking to enter the workforce to get in touch with some of our prominent alumni. James Ivory is turning heads with his travelogue, Venice, Themes and Variations. Or maybe I'd go to Sam Peckinpah. I'd show you one of his films, but this is a family presentation. But if I were seeking gainful employment, I'd really try to meet this guy. David L. Wolper's The Race for Space recently became the first television program to be nominated for an Academy Award. We here foresee a day where the study of television and film will happily coexist. Who knows? Maybe someday in the future, we will be known as the Department of Television and Cinema.
Those of us who work in television have a technical term for this part of the program.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a big show, a real big shoe.
One day she'll smile.
Well, I feel as though you're as good a friend as I got, Emily.
Away we go!
And then you killed him.
I enjoyed it.
Shazam!
Sock it to me? It will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
I hate spunk!
One more thing, sir.
Oh, no, you're not.
I'm not.
When you touch her and throw up, I think she's going to be suspicious.
Belvin, code blue. Get the crash cart in here, stat. Let's be careful out there.
When they finally added television to the name of the school, I set up a big cheer because, for me, that's really what a lot of the students are there to learn.
I remember watching Hill Street Blues when it first came on the air. It came on the air in the spring of my first year at USC. And we all watched it. It was like nothing you'd seen before.
So I first fell in love with sound when I was a kid, and I used to stay up all night in my bedroom watching television on a little 7-inch screen on a giant big box.
I used to stay up late and watch these guys. Ernie Kovac's show from Philadelphia was just insane and very far out.
All right, you asked for it.
It's not difficult for a USC student to learn the business. It's a very different experience than most film and television schools can offer their students.
I can't think of anything that I learned at USC that now, some 22 years later after my graduation, I haven't actually put to use.
Back up, clear, clear.
One of the exciting things about working on a TV show for me now is that, to me, it feels once again like film school.
We're busy and you're staring.
Every single week we're having to do another story and do another film, and you just get to try a lot of different things.
For me, truly the most valuable experience was that 507 class.
Pam Douglas is a fabulous teacher, and she taught a class in TV writing that is pretty much how it works.
Can you get me a double grande mochaccino with non-fat milk and a dash of cinnamon on the side?
You go from two guys writing in a room to suddenly you're in charge of a, $50 million business with, a couple hundred people working for you.
This show called The X-Files started, and all of a sudden, I was working on a show where every episode was like a movie.
People who populate the television industry are striving for the same thing that the people who populate the motion picture industry are striving for, which is an entertaining experience for the audience.
Shouldn't you put the script away for a while and get rid of evidence?
Travel light, free bird.
You stole this computer.
Well, I definitely see a convergence between film and television. Writers and directors and actors move back and forth in between television and film projects all the time.
I never really saw the distinction between them. I always wanted to do both.
We have a very, very, very sophisticated young audience, and they demand a more sophisticated product.
It always ends up coming back to the idea and the quality of the writing.
Forget Hollywood screenplays. Forget those distractions. Huh? What do you think I have in that office?
The trend should be just toward quality storytelling.
And that's kind of what America has, is the skill of storytelling. And that's personified at USC, in fact.
Whether it was 20 years ago, today, or 20 years forward, telling great stories is the most important element of entertainment.
You may now flip. Good night.
The early 60s was kind of like, the ground was beginning to shake a little bit.
What the heck is going on here? Hold it, baby.
It coincided with a real upheaval, not only of pop culture, the growing protest of the war, the youth movement, started to change fundamentally a lot of the political and sociological elements of American society.
It was a whole student movement. Everybody kind of felt, you know, compelled to want to do things their own way and escape from the system.
Only taking one production class, and that was animation from Herb Kossauer. And in that class, everybody was giving 32 feet of film and say, here, do a test. So instead of doing the test, I made a movie.
Praise not the oppressor, for hate stirreth up strife, while love covereth all.
We were under the gun. I mean, there's nothing like the threat of being sent off to war to give you a certain mindset.
Actually, we knew there was a dead end. I mean, and the dead end was the Vietnam War. I was going to have a good time for a couple of years and then go get killed.
There's a spirit of camaraderie in the 60s among all the students because we were all told that we would never make it into Hollywood.
What about your career?
I'm sick of this town. They take talent and they treat it like meat.
So everybody did a lot of really interesting films with no idea that it would become a calling card to get them in the industry.
THX 113840B, this is authority. You will stop where you are.
The first day, they showed us THX 1138, and I remember sort of like sinking into my seat thinking, can I say this? F me, I can't do that. It's not about, you know, the equipment, but what do you have to say? Do you have a story to tell? For a 20-year-old or something, that was a very challenging statement.
The biggest changes that I can track between my time in the mid-60s and what was happening in the 70s was the invention of 290 and 310 because it gave students a chance to make more films before they went on to do the 480.
As soon as you walked in the door, they put a camera in your hands. And from that day forward, you started to think filmically.
The rule in 482 is you couldn't hide any dailies. You had to show everything you did. So there was kind of this open, this is what I've done. It wasn't secretive, it was collaborative.
If it was changed on the set. So it was not a decision that was made. It wasn't. Unless it was made at the last moment. And I think that's bullshit.
You know, it was really just about, you know, a lot of kids and teachers who were really focused on learning to be filmmakers. You know, when you're a senior and this is your chance, you're in pure passion territory.
In history, there are times when there just happen to be a confluence of ideas and people who end up together at the same time and kind of cross-pollinate and influence each other.
We were there during a really dynamic period. Early 80s, it was all the Lucas mania.
George Lucas would come through and we were like, ah.
There was a period of time at SC where there was just these Star Wars nerds.
Yeah.
The school was
in these old barracks that look like stables almost.
Disgusting!
There was a great feeling in those old buildings. You'd walk out into that patio and they'd be packed with people drinking coffee, and it had a sense of community and a sense of love of storytelling.
They were obviously kind of very rundown and even getting more rundown because they knew they were building another building.
Now I'd like to call George Lucas and Steven Spielberg to come up and assist in this event.
It was a really exciting time to be at it.
When I was in 290, that was actually the first year of people using the new building. People were excited about the new buildings, but I think there was also some concern that maybe there would be something lost in the translation.
The new building had, a lot more to offer than this little barracks. It was kind of going from like little independent movie to studio movie.
The faculty will choose 5 outstanding students.
There was an amazing amount of media coverage of film students at that time because of the Lucas phenomena. The idea was if you made a great 480, the studios would pay attention.
My 480, which was a terrifying experience, it got me an agent.
I produced a 480, which was Scott Alexander's 480. And at the same semester, Suzanne Todd, was producing Jay Roach's 480.
We could not get a license to blow up a car for this movie, which was the big climactic end of the movie. And that kind of spirit of, we can do this, we can figure out a way, you learn to work in the system and around the system.
In the early 80s, there never had been a film school to discuss the business of filmmaking before.
The program was started by 2 very entrepreneurial people, Ray Stark and Adie Murphy, and they were very selective in the type of people that they chose to be in the program.
My mother said, you're going to go out there and you're going to meet people that are smarter than you and more aggressive than you.
We're highly competitive, and I think it was a very dysfunctional but functional group of people.
This is absurd. No, it's good business.
I think we were accused of arrogance on a number of occasions.
Some of the other students at USC didn't know quite what to make of the Stark students, and I think that's actually been very good training to be a studio executive.
Most of what you're learning is these really experienced professionals are coming in and telling you about their jobs. It gives you a sense of overview that you don't get anywhere else.
It doesn't just tie you to the industry, it sort of pushes you into it. You're all sort of coming up together. It's agents, studio executives, screenwriters, directors.
It sort of accelerates the process of you finding your way in the business.
The Starkers, they were like, we're going to work for those guys. So everybody was nice to the Stark guys.
I went into USC, my aspirations were to learn a technical skill so I could actually make a living. Of course, I came out as a writer and director and I had no technical skill whatsoever.
Back then, I think Scott and I were the only people I knew who actually finished a 120-page screenplay. We just got a phone call one day.
Hello?
Saying, your script just sold to 20th Century Fox. We're just, oh my God.
I finished my first script while I was in my first year of Stark, and the same thing happened to Miles Miller and Al Goff.
We had this idea about a cop and an orangutan. Sounds like the worst idea of all time.
My friend's cell phone went off in class. She answers it and she says, Al and Miles just sold their script for $1 million.
All right, team, this is really working out.
It was very difficult after studying the script to come back to class.
I came out and worked professionally as a sound person, as a grip, as a cinematographer, editor, writer. It took 10 years to get to the place where I got to direct, but thank God I had been doing that during all those years because I was prepared.
It was a lot about being edgy and violent.
Having all these young maverick voices of the early 90s really inspired us to go make movies that could be popular but different.
It was a really great time to be a part of the independent scene.
That's when Sundance really came into its fore. It was sort of like, the trek to Mecca.
That was a consideration in making your shorts, just keep them shorter because that's what festivals want. That's how you're going to get your exposure. That's how it's going to get out there and get seen.
people really had a love for movies and for the cinema.
We devoured movies. We had to see everything all the time.
I would get inspired by a class. I'd see 3 Kurosawa movies. Suddenly I'd be at the Little Tokyo Cinema downtown seeing the rest of them.
We were going to the New Beverly Cinema, LACMA, the American Cinematheque.
A lot of filmmakers that were at the school at the time were really inspired by the movies of the 70s. Where did my favorite filmmaker go to school? He went to USC, so that was good enough for me.
I got this big book of directors, and I started leafing through it, and I kept seeing the name USC pop up again and again.
I went through US News & World Report and picked the top schools and applied.
I remember reading an article that said that it was harder to get into USC Film School than it was to get into Harvard Law.
I knew that I was at the best place in the world to be studying film, and I kind of was having to pinch myself because I couldn't believe it was happening.
I get here early on a Monday morning. I love the smell, I love the sights, I love the sound.
We were kind of watching the beginnings of digital editing. We were seeing the future start to emerge at the school.
I shot my first year classes on Super 8 cameras, and by the time I finished there, in 3 years, I was TAing for 507 classes that were all shooting on video and were editing in nonlinear systems. Like, one foot was in the door in one world, and when I stepped out, we were in a whole different realm of filmmaking. It was just an amazing time to be there.
Francois Truffaut said that a great movie is a perfect blend of truth and spectacle. In this facility, you'll find the tools to create spectacle that is limited only by your imagination. Finding the truth is a different thing. For that, you'll have to reach down into your own hearts.
It's probably the only film school in the world that has anything even remotely close to its technology.
The toys, the tools, it's an animator's or filmmaker's dream.
Joe, you can have the girl, but first, you have to admit that you love her.
I had done animated characters before, but nothing as complicated as this hippo or the talking dog.
My God, it's a giant hippopotamus.
Without the Robert Zemeckis Center, I don't think this would have been possible.
All this equipment, it means nothing, without a vision.
We were all dreamers. We dreamed together, and it helped all of us sort of like fuel the excitement.
You think you're going to have to scale this big wall, that there's a big wall around the business, and how will I ever climb it and get in? The secret to it is that you don't climb the wall. You get a bunch of people together and you walk through together into the front gate.
You're back. Okay, good.
What USC did was give us the background to be really great storytellers and really great documentarians.
The education in the documentary program, it didn't stop when I graduated.
The craft and the vision have to come together. Without either one, then it's just a waste of time. And that's a lesson I learned at USC. It's a lesson I'm learning every day.
You're not going to believe this one, Mother.
The USC Department of Cinema, in its expanding program of educational and documentary film production, now has a 5-man crew shooting in Iran.
Who was this backwoods lawyer? Now you gotta clap your hands and you gotta say, Mambo to la pop.
Cocktails are intended to give one a sense of exhilaration.
Here, the aviation safety officer acquires a knowledge of aerodynamic forces.
Everybody has different definitions. The definition that I like the best is the man who invented documentary, John Grierson, the creative interpretation of reality.
I have everybody who's going to be playing civilians over into this area right now.
On my permit, it says underline, no guns, so we could get, totally shut off. Got to have these at least against the wall, or that's even bad, until the actual shot.
We wanted to inject more reality into the student films at USC.
I never shot nobody until I got shot, until I felt what it felt like being shot, you know what I'm saying?
And after I felt that, you know, it was easy for me to pull the trigger.
Howdy, howdy, Eddie. The sale's on.
Let me ask you a stupid question. Again, like I say, take it to any mechanic, find anything it needs, go do it, won't cost you dime, yeah.
Wait, Daddy wants, I want to have a drink first. Yeah, we'll talk.
Good boy?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to create characters. You have to find characters. Then you have to structure the viewing experience to bring people into that world.
Any good story, whether it's narrative or documentary or fiction, and has that three-act structure and has a beginning, middle, and end.
I feel like that's what we end up doing a lot,
Yeah.
is asking our directors what the directors got asked every day, every Wednesday morning at 5:46. What is your film about?
You keep the audience wanting to keep going forward and towards the end of the film, always looking around the corner to see what's coming along.
In a way, what documentaries do, which creates tension, is that the camera is so almost like sort of a beat behind reality. Because it doesn't know what reality is yet.
Semi for additional.
Any razor blades or anything on you?
They brought back cats, and they brought back dogs, and they brought back Republicans. Now they're going to bring human beings back.
I didn't feel that homosexuality was wrong, because inside of me I felt a very good feeling towards somebody of the same sex.
Do you know where you are now? What this place?
Where I'm at?
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
Where?
At times I've turned the camera off, you know, and it may have been a mistake because, you know, by perhaps keeping that camera on longer and allowing myself to be uncomfortable with what I'm doing, I may have been able to communicate somebody else's sorrow to somebody.
You have to be able to open yourself up to others and be willing to be a vessel to tell their story.
I walked up and I stood over her, and all I saw on her face was a little red dot right here, like she had almost cut herself shaving. And I looked at her and I said, "I love you, I'll see you at the hospital." And I remember going into the room and Lisa was lying on the bed. And she was dead.
Every single life has drama and romance and sorrow and heroism in it. I think documentary film should be able to teach you that the whole world is contained in everybody.
To sealing joy and love.
What is best for the long run in the country?
You understand me? Speak up.
It's not very often that you see someone going to a movie and saying, yes! But you see that all the time in a video game.
I can pass, 6 or 8 hours sometimes playing a really great game, and it doesn't feel like 6 or 8 hours. If you've grown up with playing games as your primary form of entertainment, you're also growing up probably saying, if I had a chance to do this for a living, how cool would that be?
We have yet to discover kind of our Griffith, our Eisenstein. We haven't found people in our industry yet who have pushed it forward.
By USC having a program in interactive, that'll give a structure and an opportunity for people to kind of get a shorthand on gaming. And the fact that it's being combined with traditional filmmaking classes will bring all those skills over, skills that I myself have found extremely useful being in gaming.
We're preparing for the real world here. We are actually taking a lot of the steps that a normal facility, say a game design studio, would take in order to produce games or to produce an interactive entertainment project.
Electronic Arts Interactive Entertainment Program at USC is an opportunity for people who want to make games and want to know about designing games and creating games to go there and get sort of a leg up.
We need people to be educated in a way that says, first and foremost, how do I make a great entertainment experience?
There's so many new things happening. It's an interesting broad umbrella of activities under interactive media, and they're all kind of exploding as we're exploring them.
As you see some of the emerging products that we have coming out of USC, we have mobile entertainment, we have immersive environments, we have augmented reality. We've got a broad basis of great interactive entertainment that's not just focused on games.
It's interesting that within 30 years of the kind of basic maturation of movies, they were teaching it in universities. That's where people learn their trade, and I think that's going to happen in the world of video games just as certainly as it did in film.
As we started to think about it and look around and say, where do we want to put our name as the largest developer and publisher of interactive entertainment, we wanted to go with the school that's best known globally as the entertainment academic institution. And when you say that, it's pretty easy. It was University of Southern California.
Know any games we can play?